Pete Ham gave us beautiful, beautiful songs. He gave songs of peace, love, kindness, and understanding, the best of the human spirit. We related to his songs, we could engage in his music. He made us feel warm, protected, happy, excited, joyful. He wasn't afraid to put forward a great melody with the fullest of sincerity and totally embrace it. He was deep, he was real. We feel like we knew this man. He became our friend, our brother, our guide, our confidant, besides someone to admire and look up to. Swansea, you have to be so proud of this man and his accomplishments. Your native son, who had his character, his ideals fostered through growing up in this wonderful town of Swansea. I know of this region's tradition of hard work and effort, of camaraderie, of aiding and assisting your fellow man, of gaining more out of helping and assisting rather than your own success, of working hard and wanting to do an even better job the next time. Pete personified those ideals, the South Wales tradition. Pete was a superb musician and artist, but an even better human being. All of his friends and family, all the fans and most musicians knew how greatly talented he was, and we were all in awe. But even more so, what Pete Ham was a thoroughly decent fellow. I see a lot of his friends and family here, good people. And I know a lot of you have memories of how he and his music has touched your heart. Pete's lovely daughter, Petra, is here today. And though she has never met her father, he has always been a guiding light and presence to her. She learned about her from her mother, Anne Harriet, the lovely Anne Harriet. Anne has always honored and respected Pete's memory with great dignity. Also here is Petra's brother Blair, who Pete treated as if he was his own child. Friends of Pete have told Petra tales of him over the years, and of course his music informed her of his life story. Those words, the phrases, the melodies, the tasteful guitar licks that spoke as mini songs unto themselves, the rich, warm vocal that envelops you, that stirs your heart, never lets you down by going out of pitch or doing anything that might distract you. We marvel at his gift of harmonies. And he was an amazing guitar player. Mike Gibbons of Swansea, his bandmate. Mike told me every single take of Peter Ham was good. You could have used it all because he was almost flawless. He was gifted, but it came not just from talent, but because of the very hard work he did. He had a perseverance, a belief in himself that great effort could bring fulfillment and success. When Paul McCartney came to the Iveys and offered his song Come and Get It, Pete very respectfully stated, well, we were hoping to record one of our own songs for the next single. Bill Collins, the Iveys manager, pulled Pete aside and told Pete, you don't ever turn down Paul McCartney. Even earlier than that, Pete Townsend of The Who had offered the Iveys Marianne with the Shaky Hand to record as a single. Pete had also said then, we want to release one of our own songs. He had that belief in himself. Pete had been writing and making incredible demos starting around the age of 19 and 20, and he was farther along in writing, recording techniques, singing ability, and song conception than just about any other 60s British rock artist of a similar age. Ray Davies of the Kinks noticed this talent, and over a year's time, Ray Davies tried very hard to get to produce an album for the Iveys. even while the Kinks were very popular and wildly busy. But Bill Collins held off the many interested parties. Perhaps he was nervous he would get them the wrong deal, but then the Beatles' Apple Records came along, and the rest is history. What many people who knew Pete have made clear was that he had a very gentle nature and was very soft-spoken. Yet, also, he could be a great joker and prankster who loved to make you laugh. He loved to make people smile. Pete was also emphasized as being very humble and treating people with respect. Fans have told me of being very excited and happy to meet Pete, yet he would tell them back, "No, it's my honor to meet you. You're the people out there working hard. I just sing the songs. It's my honor to meet you." That was Pete Ham. Another incident, one time friends of his were kind of casually making jokes about a busker who was struggling at a restaurant. And they were, as people do, making remarks. He stopped them in their tracks and said, "You need to give this man respect. He's doing the best he can do." That's Pete Ham.
Yeah.
Pete was certainly a very well-liked guy, but there were a few in this rough and ready music business who hurt him terribly. It's a very hard business with too many shysters, huge egos, and people more than willing to use others for personal gain. When we have these artists like Pete who are so naturally effusive, so beautiful, so magical with their gift, so intuitive of expression, so pure in their heart, they sadly become a target. And because Pete was so wanting to see the best in people, why wouldn't he expect them to treat him as he would treat them? He had that trust. He wanted to just be himself and give and expect that in return. Sadly, especially in the music business, you can't have that attitude to survive. Swansea, through memorializing Pete Ham today through this Blue Plaque honor, you now have become one of the protectors of his legacy. He was one of you, through and through Welshman, and a very proud citizen of this town. He came up in Swansea in an amazing time of intense musical growth and high energy in the early 60s, and there were many other talented people here deserving of a shot at future acclaim and fame. Others here did have the heart and soul of a Pete Ham. He had some success, so he became your example of your rich heritage of the creative arts, music, vocalizing, poetry, all done with inspired human dignity. Pete was always in bands, and so he believed in the team concept of everyone working together to make an artistic statement. He assisted everyone in the Iveys and Badfinger along the way and felt as much satisfaction in the others creating their works and coming up with parts for their songs. He excitedly embraced any notoriety that they garnered for their compositions. He never bragged about the many recording sessions he had with the Beatles or working on their productions. In fact, Pete turned down an offer to go to a John Lennon Imagine session because he committed himself to visiting with his young niece that day. That was more important in that moment, his family, his promise to his niece. Pete truly loved his family, his mother Catherine, his father William, his brother John, and his sister Irene. All of his cousins, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, he loved them all and even wrote songs about his experiences at home. Pete even loved animals, all creatures. He even wrote a song about a slug, a chicken, and how they should get respect. He visited orphanages to lend these kids special moments, special happy moments in their lives. I feel very honored in having written a biography on Badfinger, and through that, getting to know so many people in Pete's life, getting to know the other members of the bands he was in, and even some of those that carried on his tradition beyond his passing, such as Al Wadkey, who played a number here, a very talented man from Minnesota, Joe Tanzen, a superb songwriter, a very genuine and sincere artist, and another fellow, Jeff Ross, another great songwriter. They carried on the tradition of Badfinger when they had their opportunities. Pete was very close with many of his bandmates. If he had known there was going to be a plaque today to honor his work, he surely would have been somewhat embarrassed and likely wanted to see his bandmates receive some due. So in honor of that, and what he represents as a person, his bandmates in the Iveys and Badfinger are going to be listed on the plaque below his name. Based on, they all deserve that. Other early bandmates of Pete, but not on the plaque, I want to acknowledge them, they're here, that grew up with him and played in bands, are Roy Anderson, John Horrell, and Terry Gleason. Another important figure in Pete's life was an early mentor at the youth club, Mr. Brian Coffey. One key member who was with Pete, of course, was Mike Gibbons of Swansea, who many of you knew and loved. A great drummer and a very underrated songwriter of the Iveys and Badfinger. He has a devoted widow, Ellie, and 3 remarkably talented sons, Owen, Adam, and David, that are back in Florida, and I know they wish they could be here today. Gaynor, his ex-wife, is also here, and she's very close with the family. Ron Griffiths of the Iveys is here. Give a hand for Ron. Ron is here with his family and his partner, Peggy. Ron was a great bass player and singer. He and Pete were musically symbiotic, and they would have done great things if Pete had carried on, as they were very close. Ron's voice was really the key in getting the Iveys to London. David Jenkins of the Iveys is here. Let's give him a hand. David's lively stage presence and vocals also helped gain the Iveys the attention of manager Bill Collins, who wholeheartedly believed in these boys and did the initial push towards songwriting, which was their key to establishing themselves in the music business. Another bandmate of Pete's was the remarkable Liverpudlian Tom Evans.
Yeah.
Tom was Pete's co-writer for Without You. His wonderful wife Marianne is here. Give her a hand.
Yeah.
Tom was the pizzazz of Badfinger. His harmonies and the range were the icing on all those hit songs. Tom and Pete likely would have had a remarkable songwriting team. There was one month in 1969, there was a transition from Ron Griffiths leaving and Joey Mullen entering the band. In that month, they co-wrote Without You, Carry On Till Tomorrow, Crimson Ship, and other great tunes showing enormous potential. As far as Without You, the true origin of that song, there's some rumors out there and stories. Pete took his early song, whose chorus wasn't quite finished to his satisfaction, and asked Tom if he could swap in Tom's chorus. And yes, this all-time classic was born. And it was true that Harry Nilsson and his producer, Richard Perry, it took their ears to interpret the true depth of the melody and potential that that song had. Pete was also embracing of a new member in 1969, Joey Mullen, and Joey was going to be a new part of the team, so Pete immediately encouraged him to write songs. And Joey did prove to be an excellent songwriter who helped make a number of Badfinger's albums classic, whole, and complete. But Pete would uplift and lace all of Joey's songs with incredible licks and stunning guitar solos. And Joey returned the favor with his guitar solos on No Matter What and Baby Blue. Later on, from that time, there was a new member of Badfinger, Bob Jackson. Let's give Bob a hand.
Hey, Bob!
Bob is headlining the concert this afternoon, and his wonderful family is out there, I know. And Bob joined up with Pete, and they immediately bonded. Pete asking him to visit his home, and a friendship seemingly was born. They, no doubt, Bob and Pete, would have joined in some musical nirvana down the road based on their early recordings together for Head First. Bob later wrote a tribute song to Pete, I Won't Forget You. And if this world is fair, it will be recognized by the masses someday as a masterpiece of composition. Finally, I want to acknowledge and thank all the council people. You've been fantastic in your dedication to get this off the ground. Everyone at the mayor's office too, Nick Bradley, and the many people who helped put this together. Most notably, I want to give two names, Andrew Spencer Thomas and Andrew Keene. And thanks to the many fans and old fans who have traveled here for the weekend. Thank you to the people of Swansea, of South Wales, and to all the musicians of the world out there paying attention to this. The songwriters of the world who admire Pete. The sensitive artists who express from their heart, who have felt misunderstood at times, but compelled to continue to create because this is all they know. This is all that makes sense to them. For these artists, Pete is an inspiring figure, a genuine artist who did everything the right way, and his music will always be an inspiration to draw from.
Yeah.
So, in final word, thank you, Swansea, for recognizing Pete on what would have been his 66th birthday by immortalizing him with this blue plaque today. And ladies and gentlemen, here for you we have some video clips and some highlights of Pete Ham, the Iveys, and Badfinger.